Hello, everybody. It's Linda from the She Is Project here, wishing you a very happy Thursday morning here in Australia, and getting to chat to the amazing Susan Sohn this morning. So I'm really excited about that. And hey, Maddie, how are you? Happy birthday, Rachel. So good to have you online. Just waiting for Susan to join us. Introduce her to everyone who's already here. Susan is an incredible human being. And here she is. Look at
Hello.
you.
Hello.
Look how beautiful and well groomed you are.
Oh, look, you know what? A
This
shower
is,
can do wonders.
you just woke up like that.
Yeah, just out of bed.
Yeah, me too. I have leggings and Ugg boots on the bottom and lipstick on the top. So,
Yeah, that's it.
Well, thank you for coming online with us today. So good to see you. It's been forever
And
before I
you.
since I've seen you in real life.
I
Um,
know.
thank thank you, Corona. Hey, Kat,
Yeah.
lovely to have you online. Let me intro Susan to everyone who's joining us. Susan is many things. I'm not going to give you the whole like professional bio because I think it's just much better to know that she's an incredible woman. She is a wife, a mum, an author, a speaker, a disruptor. I love that phrase. A social media disruptor. I think a life disruptor, actually, in the best possible way. And she's the author of this book, True You, Finding Beauty and Authenticity. And I think that, I've known Susan in lots of different ways, and she's a fantastic friend, I think, is probably one of the most important things for you to all know. But I feel like the book is really sort of the culmination of a journey of much of your life to this point. And I cannot recommend it enough. I think you can go to getreallive.com to buy it or wherever good books are sold.
Yeah, Amazon anywhere.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's chock-a-block full of great wisdom, great stories, really practical tips, lots of raw, real honesty, and insights that have been shaped by experience. And so it is zero fluff and 100% real and resonates so strongly, I think, with anybody alive today, but particularly for women. I think you just really articulate some really powerful truths about identity and authenticity and vulnerability, all of which are great buzzwords, but can lose a little bit of their impact if all we see is Instagram posts.
Hmm.
But I think what you've done in the book is really powerfully unpack the reality of that journey of exploring who the true you is. And Susan has contributed a really great story to Volume 2 of the She Is Project. I really love it because it just speaks on so many levels: relationships, identity, marriage, relationship with faith. And so I'm not going to say anything more because you can either buy her book or buy our book or buy both, which would be a great blessing to both of us.
That's it.
So, Susan, I want to, there's so many things that we could talk about. And actually, just before we go any further, so I don't forget this, I think at some point we need to have another conversation and talk about menopause
Oh my
because,
gosh. Yes.
because
And
I don't
me?
think enough people talk about it in the real and raw, honest way that you and I have talked about it in our off camera conversations. And I thought, that's what we need to do because I feel like a breath of fresh air is required, and the sisterhood need to say, "Hey, it's okay. This part sucks, and this part's awesome, and you're going to survive it." So stay tuned for that at another time.
That's it.
But I wonder if we could start by, can you give me just an insight into how, whether it was one moment or accumulation of moments, you decided enough already. I'm tired of the BS about trying to live maybe not even double life, but multiple people in my own life, and something needs to change. How did that happen?
Look, I think I was an early adopter of the vulnerability message. I think from an early age, and I talk about it in the book, when in grade one, as early as grade one, my grade one teacher called my mom one day and said, I want to knock some of the confidence out of this girl. Yeah, I know. And my mom, I remember the doors of the school flying open. I'm sure my memory of it is different to how it unfolded, but I really stand on the shoulders of my mom, who knew who she was. And she basically said, you're not going to do that. You're not going to knock the confidence out of this girl.
Wow.
And she, oh gosh, sorry, my dog's here. Life is happening. So
Yeah.
hopefully he won't.
I have a bird committing sort of kamikaze moves on the
Oh,
glass. So,
good, good. Yeah, so my mom really stood up for me and said, no, this isn't going to happen. She's going to be who she is, fully and unbridled. And I think I really thank my mom for the strength of knowing who she was, so I could walk in those shoes and really embrace who I was. I have been misunderstood throughout that journey, definitely, because I think I found my voice of confidence really early, but many times it was misplaced, and I hurt people along the way, including myself.
wow. Wow. So you do talk about quite a pivotal story where you are newlywed and life has piled up upon you and you felt the weight of expectation to be many different things to many different people and realized I can't do this. Uh,
Yeah.
so what sort of steps did you take along the way to, I guess, shed some of those layers of expectation, even though you started with a core of confidence that possibly a lot
Yeah.
of people don't begin with?
I think this is a journey that unfolds. I think at the beginning of my marriage, when things weren't as I thought, I think I say in the book that I thought I was going to have this incredible relationship, lots of sex, all this stuff that was supposed to happen, and it just didn't. And we realized that we brought a whole bunch of our garbage into our relationship, undealt with stuff. And then all of a sudden, here we are, this young married couple, and we had to deal with this. And didn't know how, didn't know where to go, didn't know who to talk to, who you could trust.
Mm,
Um, and so I think a lot of it had to do with, I talk about Shrek and peeling off the layers of the onion. And I had to peel off the layers of the onion to go, who am I really in this moment? In this moment, who do I want to be? And over the course of the years, and as I look back, I realize that this has been an unfolding story. But I like to say my give a damn button started to break when I
right.
was hit with my own, our pain and what we had to walk through. And I think sitting in that pain, learning to sit in that pain and not push it away, helped me realize that the only person I could change was myself.
Mm,
And I had to do that for me, not for anybody else. And I think as you go through your 30s and then you hit your 40s, and there's something liberating that happens when you turn 40. And then, oh my gosh, you turn 50, and it, I can tell you
hello.
from here, 50 feels pretty damn good.
So what do you think that is? Because I mean, before I turned 50, I heard that and I'm like, it's not like anything magic happens, when the clock ticks over, but something does shift.
Yeah.
What do you think that was for you?
Um, well, I think there was a couple things. We had three children. I wanted to get some children to adult years successfully.
Mm.
I did that, so I breathed a sigh of relief with that. I mean, they've got their scars and they're in therapy for whatever I did to them, and that's fine. Um, they'll have to work through that. But I think you get there and you have this beautiful perspective of being able to look back. And I said to my youngest the other day, she was having a absolute meltdown. She had a really hard day. My kids are of mixed race, and so this Black Lives Matter conversation is huge for them right now. Really, really
Mm.
big. And I said to my daughter, I've made it through, excuse me, 100% of my hardest days. And what I can tell you for certain is you will make it through your
Mm,
hardest days. Um, and sometimes it's by scratching and clawing our way through that day.
mm,
But I think it's also being brave enough to face whatever it is we have to face
mm,
and not having the answers. And
mm.
I talk in the book about my lumpy bits, my crusty bits, the stuff you don't like about me. Oh well, I'm showing up. That's all I can do.
So that sounds incredible and liberated and freeing,
Yeah.
but how do you get to that place where your I don't give a damn
Okay.
button is broken, and oh well, here I am, warts and all. That is a fraught journey for so many people, and we use so many different coping mechanisms and protective barriers to protect ourselves from our true identity and project to others what we think that they want to see.
Yeah.
How did you navigate that minefield?
I think I got to a point, and I've said this to my husband a lot, and for many years he said to me, "Oh, that's such an arrogant way to look at things," but and maybe it is, but
Refreshingly honest.
oh my gosh, honestly, that man. Um, I I got to a point where I really liked me. I had to weed through, even because there's going to be so many things. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. This dog. Hang on.
If it's not dogs, it's kids.
Yes, it will stop in a second. Somebody's just coming in my house. So sorry, everybody.
He's just
Um,
doing his job.
yeah, that's it. I had to get to a point. There's going to be stuff about me that people don't like. Even people on this conversation, they're going to go, "Oh, she's full of it." Whatever. There's going to be stuff about all of us that people don't like. There's going to be people in life that don't like you. There are people in life that I don't like. There are times that I don't like everything about me, but I had to sink into that. This is me. This is what I've got to work with. This is it. And so going down that path and going, well, what is it that I do like about myself? I'm really speaking that into myself. And my family laugh all the time because I will, to this day, walk by the mirror and remind myself how attractive I am. I'm like, wow, look at you. I do. I remind
That's
myself
awesome.
all the time that this is who I am. I am strong. I am confident. I am all of these things. And I have had to do that inner battle because we are our worst enemy. And our inner
Mm,
narrative is a killer. If we're honest, it's not what other people say about us or to us, it's what we say to ourselves.
mm,
And so
mm,
I really chose that. I think you show up from the inside out. And so I have chosen to, throughout the course of my life, and I really held on to, that whole fearfully and wonderfully made, all that,
mm,
those scriptures that we've held on to
mm,
as kids and all that stuff. And I actually really attached myself to that
mm,
and decided to speak that into me because nobody else was going to. My
mm,
dad
mm.
did, my mom, my parents told me how lovely I was and whatever, but I've had to come from me.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think, and it's a daily thing. I've told myself today how fantastic I am. And I truly believe it. I really do.
As you should. I think that's a really good point, because similar to you, I have been fortunate to have parents who have always spoken positive things over my life, and that's a great foundation. And I know that not everybody is blessed with that, but at
Yeah.
some point, the rubber hits the road when you go out into a world that's not giving you high fives and is not your greatest cheerleader, and you encounter people who don't say to you, yes, darling, you can do whatever you want. You're amazing. And then you have to actually go, okay, so what is true? Is
Yeah.
it what mum and dad have said? Is it what this random person that doesn't like me or is not happy with a decision that I made at work or whatever, however that narrative starts to build? And so you have to actually own your own sense of identity for
Yeah.
yourself.
Yeah.
But I think part of the challenge is when you get into a permanent relationship, as like a marriage, is that we can expect our partner to
Yeah.
to be constantly, we hear the phrase, filling up my love tank. Well, my love tank's empty. And I'm not suggesting that that's not what I'm expecting from Gary. Just saying, Gary, if you're listening. But but equally, what a relief it is when I don't need him to fill up that tank.
Well, and nor should you. And
Yeah.
I'm going to challenge a bit of that in that if I honestly look to fill, and I know a lot of women do this,
Mm.
and I understand it, but if I looked to fill, his responsibility is not to make me feel good about myself. His
Mm.
responsibility is not to tell me I don't look fat in those pants, because the truth is I do look fat in those pants. His responsibility, I
Yes.
cannot put the weight of who I am and my worth and my value on Philip, because Philip's working that out for himself. I have got
Mm.
to work that out for me so that I can come as a reservoir and present myself, not to my husband alone, but to my family, to my life.
Mm.
Equally, I think for women who have children, we often look to our kids to give us value. I don't want to put that burden on my children. My
Yeah.
children don't fill that up for me. That's not
Mm.
their job nor their responsibility. And I get that a lot of women do get trapped in that. Well, he needs to do this. He needs to make me feel this way.
Yeah.
Hang on a second. No, he doesn't.
Mm.
You need to do that for you. That is the most beautiful gift we can give to ourselves, is loving kindness,
Mm.
and to speak that to ourselves and to remind ourselves, this is who I am.
Mm.
And even acknowledging, yeah, I'm a disruptor, I'm outspoken, I'm opinionated, I am all those things, and to some that's probably really annoying. I'm okay with that.
Yeah. That's awesome. I love that, and great relationship advice. It's it's not an easy road to navigate, though,
No.
when we are generally surrounded by voices that tell us to actually look externally for validation, that
Yeah.
promote action. And I want to bring in the fact that, because I want your perspective on this. I mean, you're a marketing expert. And
Yes.
and I find I find the tension of that really interesting, is that professionally you have spent a lot of your life presenting the best version of a product or a service on behalf of other people.
Mm-hmm.
How do you walk that line between
Yeah.
presenting the best version of something and the unadorned, raw, vulnerable, authentic version of something that we love to shout about, on the best, most popular posts I ever do on Instagram are the ones where I don't have lipstick on and I haven't brushed my hair, because
Yeah.
people want to applaud my authenticity.
Yeah.
And that's awesome. And I live 90% of my life without having brushed my hair and without lipstick on. So, so it is authentic. But at the same time, how do we steward the fact that we need to love ourselves enough to take
Yeah.
care of ourselves, um, put to steward well the
Yeah.
resource that is our life. So
Yeah.
what are your thoughts on that?
That's a really good question, an interesting question. I had this conversation yesterday in my marketing world where I said to a client of mine, we're taking people down this journey, this path to get them to make a decision. We were creating landing pages for a client. And I said, the whole purpose of this is, take Nike shoes, for example, or a car. The whole purpose is to let you know that your life is ultimately going to be better if you wear this shoe.
Mm-hmm.
That ultimately, if I wear my Nike Pegasus, I'm going to feel better. I'm going to be fit, whether I work out or not. I'm all of a sudden going to be fit. That's the story that we tell people.
Mm-hmm.
But I tend to flip it on the head a little bit, and social media and digital media has had this provided us this incredible opportunity to do the one thing that we often forget to do, even as individuals. We don't listen.
Mm.
So when I'm sitting with a client, I always say to them, what is your audience telling you? What are they saying? What are their pain points? what can add value to their lives. And so although you may want to sell them a shoe and you may want to tell them this, let's actually listen to them and identify what's going on with them so we can actually serve them something that adds value to their life, rather than telling them, drive this car and your life is going to be better. Because we both know you drive that car and your life isn't going to be better, you're just going to be in more debt. So how do we actually listen to people? And I think both from a marketing space and from a, and it's been interesting with my kids, we often will talk about, well, why do you want that? Because Kim Kardashian is wearing it? Well, let's talk about Kim's life. Let's unfold that. Let's unpack that and go, now do you want to buy that? So I think the why behind the what is often a conversation that we forget to have. But I think really understanding and listening to people, and I think we've, even within our personal relationships, we've lost that gentle art of listening. And, you know, people want to be seen, they want to be known, and they want to be heard. That's what people want. They want to know that whether it's a brand they're buying or a service they're using or something they're attending, they want to know that they matter, that they're showing up mattered. And you do that by listening to them and hearing where they're at, and then serving up something that you go, I've actually heard you. So that's how I balance that. And I spend a lot of time listening.
So given that, I guess just building on that, I feel like one of the keys that you've alluded to and certainly speak about in the book is that the first place you need to listen is actually to yourself. And my experience and we're going to pivot a little into faith and spirituality more explicitly now, is that listening to myself was actually the enemy, not the ally. And so as a person of faith, as a person who's deeply spiritual and has really dug into an authentic relationship with Jesus and the expression of that is true for where you're at, I know that that's cost you along the way to walk that out. So how did you have, again, the confidence to be able to listen to yourself rather than listening to others who were telling you this is what your journey should look like? And these are the validation points that you can tick off along the way to affirm that you're on the right journey. You're a disruptor in the best possible way. So how did you do that, and what does that actually look like?
Yeah, I think I'd be amiss to go through this conversation without acknowledging the incredible people that I have in my life, including yourself. And there are people in your life that are right with you on that path. And one thing I've come to realize, I've always been a person of many. My husband and I, we laugh a lot when we go out to parties or dinner parties or events or something, and I will have met everybody in the room. And he will have had this deep and meaningful conversation with one person, and I'm going, oh my gosh, how boring. But, and I've always been the one, oh, the bigger the better, go bigger, go home. And when it comes to, as I've gotten older, as it's come to relationships, I've realized that it's actually a few who will walk very deeply with you. And there's a chapter in the book called Find Your Suzy, and it is about a friend of mine who's older than me and has kids older than me as well, mine as well. But she's one of my best friends, and perhaps for some, a surprising friend. And I tend to have surprising friends, deep friendships. So I'd be amiss to not acknowledge that there have been incredible people, my friend Jane and Michaela, who have walked closely with me and who have not been afraid of my ugly and my fear and my pain, and who have been in all of those moments with me. When it comes to faith and that journey, it has cost a lot. And I had to let go of almost everything that I had ever held true.
Mm.
So I could rediscover who God really was, because I began to see that some things that I actually thought were paper thin, and some things that was holding on to. I don't know. I know you've done the Enneagram, and I don't know if anybody who's listening has, but I'm a number 7 on the Enneagram. And that means, if you want to equate me to a cartoon character, I'm like Tigger from Winnie the Pooh. Or apparently I've done this other thing called 16 personalities, and I'm like Borat. That's basically me. I'm I'm Tigger and Borat.
Quite a picture.
Yes. And so for me, a lot of the stuff in my faith journey, the lights, the bells, the whistles, the excitement, the energy, really fed a part of me. But I needed to go deeper and really know who God was in this big grand scheme of life. And so for me, Tigger and Borat, who's never shy of a number of words, I had to go silent, and I had to go quiet, and I had to sit and practice the presence of God and being present to that, rather than flying through life on a caffeine high. And I often say that I felt like I was, you know how we've had this battle within the food world, sugar's bad, this is bad, all this stuff is bad. As I've journeyed through this, I feel like I was on this highly processed diet that fueled me and kept me jazzed up. But now I'm on this rich, dense, bone broth, organic, messy space that is actually grounding and freeing, really freeing.
So it's freeing now. Just tell me what it was like when you had that sense, something in me needs to shift. What did that actually feel like? And how did you make the change, and perhaps you can just explain what the changes are in the way that you practice your spirituality.
Yeah.
And faith.
I realized it when I'm in marketing. And I realized it when I kind of got this thought that we're getting really good at putting out flashy invitations and lovely words and welcome home and you belong here and statements like that. When my lived experience and that of my kids, we see a lot through the lives of our kids. Our vision is very clear through their eyes. And I was seeing that actually wasn't the experience. And so that's probably the beginning when I started to go, what does this actually mean? And are we attaching ourselves to an experiential God? Because when the lights go out and when COVID happens and when the world changes, what is it? What am I left with? Because I'm relying on this sugar high or this processed experience to carry me through. And that's partly on me. That is definitely partly on me as well. And so when I started this journey, it was scary, and I asked a lot of questions. And to this day, one of my best friends, Jane, will always say to me, why are you asking that? Why are you saying, oh, well, it's me, or it's this? Why are you saying that? Because people have made you think that you're wrong. People have made you think this way. And I've come to this beautiful place where I've taken up hiking. I don't know if it's a 50-year-old thing when you start hiking or what. You do too.
We are evidence of that, yes.
Yes, yes. When you change your stilettos for hiking boots,
That's right.
You know life has changed. But I've come to this beautiful place where I find God in nature. I'm finding God in places that are so surprising to me. And I remember my dad was a beautiful teacher in my life, and there was one time when we drove by a homeless person, and my dad said to me, what do you see, Suzy? By the way, my dad and my husband are the only ones that can call me that.
Noted.
And I said, oh, I see a homeless person. He goes, no, what do you see? I said, well, I see a man who's, this has happened, or he's homeless. And he goes, no, Susie, what do you see? And I realized he was asking me a much deeper question because I wasn't seeing. I had this
Mm,
thin, or I was seeing through some sort of glasses. And he said, at some point, that was a baby that was loved. That man was birthed into the world,
mm,
and somewhere along the path, something went wrong. And it is our responsibility, part of our lived experience, to extend a hand of kindness and gentleness. And it doesn't have to come in a 5-point sermon. It can
mm,
come as gently as a smile. And I think
mm,
we overcomplicate what a spiritual life is. And I find that even now, it's really interesting as we've gone down this journey, and I would say we're more contemplative in our spiritual expression now. I find people will say to me things like, well, if you pray, if you still pray. And I'm thinking, isn't it funny? Just because I'm not stomping my feet and clapping my hands and carrying on like I once did, just because my lived expression of my faith has changed, and because you're not seeing the optics of what you need to see, doesn't discount the dense relationship and new relationship that I have with God that has finally been
mm,
transformative.
wow. I think that comment about just because you're not seeing what you're expecting to see, that you could make an assumption that actually that that works in every direction. As I've journeyed a similar path to you, towards hiking, no stilettos, and a much more contemplative approach to my spirituality. Still, still love going to church, but I spend a lot of time in silence, which, similar to
Mm.
you, is unexpected.
Yeah.
But actually being able to reflect back and look at where I have come from and still see the value that that experience brings
Yeah.
for some people, but also see the value that my current situation brings for me, which means that I still remain open to the fact that there is more for me to discover
Oh,
and more
gosh.
expressions for us to explore, rather than it being quite a binary and almost stationary
Yeah.
perspective in the past. I felt like I've arrived and this is it, and this is the way it will always be. We will always follow this pattern in our service. We will always sing these types of songs, and we will always
Mm.
hear the word communicated in this particular way, and we will always express our faith like this.
Yeah.
And to actually step into the expansiveness
Mm.
of and even that is really just, it's, we've had a teaspoonful of the immensity of the mystery of God, but recognizing that's not scary, that's
No.
incredibly exciting. um,
However, people like us have been referred to as dangerous, which I find that very, very funny. I am the least dangerous person there is
I
because I
know.
find the beauty of God within a leaf or a tree, and I'm marveling at how the sun and the water and all these things have, and even my breath, my exhalation has played a
Mm,
part in that.
mm,
The expanse of it has been the thing for me that has gone, it is, God is bigger than 3 fast songs and 2 slow. And I'm not
yeah,
discounting that, because you're right, that experience was rich and beautiful. Um, but I think it's like we're now hikers. I think
yeah.
we grow in this experience of what we want. And it's interesting, again, through the lives of our kids have all said to us, wow, you guys have grown so much in your
Mm,
walk with God. And to hear them and to see them witness the beauty of that is,
mm.
can only be God, can only be God.
Yeah, yeah, incredibly rewarding to recognize that you are still opening doors for your children rather
Yeah.
than reminding them of a closed door. and a
Yeah.
very small room. But yeah, my kids have had to push me in that direction. I didn't go willingly, I suppose, initially.
Well,
But
and yeah,
that's the great thing
that's the beauty
about having kids,
of
that yeah,
yeah,
of you
exactly.
reproducing yourself, and then you realize I'm actually getting what I deserve.
Yeah, yeah. Did I just hear myself come out of that body? Yes,
I
I
think
did.
so. Exactly. So I can't
Yeah.
get too angry.
No, no.
Yeah. So I
No.
feel like you've given us an insight, and I know, and I want to just recommend the book again to people, because at the end of each chapter you do unpack some of this spiritual practices and reflective questions that you just use in the course of your own life and in the
Mm.
context of small group, small community life, that
Hmm.
I think are really, really helpful. So in just respecting the amount of time, that I wanted to finish up by just referencing the book. Is the Shia's book is called Wisdom and Wonder. And how do you cultivate wisdom and wonder in your own life?
Mm. That's interesting. Um, Wisdom is something early on in my walk with God, I stumbled across ask wisdom to be your best friend.
Mm,
And I have I had a really wise dad, um, and I watched wisdom in his life. And one of my greatest regrets was not asking him who was his mentors, like where did he pull from. But I remember when I stumbled across this, I began to ask for wisdom to be my best, excuse me, to be my best friend. And so I still ask for that. I am not wise by any stretch of the imagination. My family can tell you that. But I'm getting there. I think every day I do become a little bit wiser, and
mm,
um, I I think I also have. It's been hard, but I've decided to allow myself to be challenged. That's probably been the hardest thing for me,
mm,
to actually own my stuff. I'm not great at it. I'm really not. But to own it and to really question what part I play in every story, because I've had to realize that I'm not the leading lady in every story, although we want to be. I'm
mm,
not. And so what role do I play in each story? And I think that has been helpful for me. I also cultivate wisdom through the friends in my life. I will often, and writing this book, oh gosh, it was a funny experience. And that's a whole nother conversation. But I had a group of friends who I would send stuff to, and every email starts with, if this is crap, let me know. Um, and it did. Every email heading says, if this is crap, let me know. But I have great friends. And again, as I said, I think you walk deep with a few through your life.
mm,
And those people who are in that space with me are wise people. And so I think that's a space. And just the other thing, I think the smartest and the wisest thing I may have done is to be quiet, to
mm,
choose to be quiet. And
mm,
because I have lived a life of talking and using, yeah, my own strength and wit and mind. As far as wonder, I think I cultivate wonder I do through the lives of my children.
mm,
Um, that has been a beautiful thing, to allow God to open up my eyes wider and to see beyond the things that, to choose not to see what's right in front of me, but as my dad asked me all those years ago, what did I see?
mm,
Um, and then there's one other place where wonder has been a guiding force for me, and strangely, it comes through the life of my younger brother who has Down syndrome.
Mm.
And I have seen the beauty of God and the magic of wonder and this in the simplest of forms displayed through a life who we would you in many cases choose to ignore. And
Mm.
so I feel like I've been given a gift in that
Mm.
through this man who can't read, who can't count money, who can't operate in the world like we're meant to, but who shows me the beauty and the kindness and the unconditional love of God in every conversation I have with him.
Wow.
So those are ways for me. And then hiking.
Yeah. It's funny when I think of our shared love of nature and the outdoors. Not that my family were hikers by any stretch growing up, but I do recall in my childhood our parents making us stop and look at trees, and us and
Yeah.
us thinking, why? Why would I look
Yeah.
at a tree? Like, can we just get where we need to go? And now
Yeah.
I'm the one saying, stop, everyone, look at that
Yeah.
tree. Look at the way
Yeah.
the sun comes through those leaves. Isn't that
Mm-hmm.
amazing? And now it's my kids who are rolling their eyes at me. But something does shift, and
Mm.
maybe life has to be too fast for us to appreciate what the beauty of it being a little bit slower. But
Mm.
thank you so much for sharing over
Thank
such
you.
breadth and depth.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel, as I always do when I talk with you, this could go on for much longer. But let's hope that this is just part one of the
Yes.
ongoing conversation. But I do want to
Mm.
just say thank you so much for your humility, because it takes humility and courage to actually say, I don't know, but I am determined to find out.
Mm.
I don't know. I'm going to ask somebody else for their perspective. I
Mm.
don't know. So I'm going to look and dig deeper in the story. And I feel like you've done that so courageously and consistently. And the result is that those who are in your community and your sphere of influence are benefiting from the overflow of what you have discovered
Mm.
and have the ability to articulate and present. So I really appreciate that. I know that it costs you,
Mm.
as it does anytime any of us do something new and vulnerable. But
Mm.
I'm so grateful and look forward to what is ahead and continuing this conversation. And again, just I really encourage people to check out the book, True You. I know that you will find it deeply encouraging and very empowering. Susan, you're an absolute legend. I love you. Have a wonderful day, whatever that involves, and let's talk again soon.
Ditto. Thanks for having me. See
My
ya.
pleasure. Bye, everyone.